I wasn't very gentle with the door as I kicked it open. In fact, I struck it so hard with my foot that I felt a stab of pain in my toes. Swearing loudly, I entered the stairwell and stormed down the steps. My footsteps echoed off of the close walls and metal steps as I descended. As I did so, I kept thinking that I shouldn't have come to the damn apartment building in the first place. I hadn't lived there in months. I had a place across town. The only reason I was there was at the bidding of my wife. No, not wife, I corrected myself. Ex-wife. Even though that was an extremely new development, there was a huge difference there. No more trial separation. What a fucking joke name for a fucking joke idea. You're having trouble with your marriage? Let's see if distance helps with solving all the problems the two of you have. Communication? Nah. Counseling? Nope. What you need is fucking distance. When she had called earlier that day, I had thought that maybe, just maybe, Courtney had realized the separation was nonsense. We had been together since freshman year of high school. We knew each other better than anyone else. It wasn't distance that our admittedly struggling marriage needed. What we needed was closeness and an open dialogue, and just being with one another. That's all. We could get past our issues and get things back on track if we were in the same damn room together. Apparently, the hope of reconciliation was an empty one. I had barely stepped through the apartment doorway before she was shoving divorce papers in my face. She had already signed them, her name written out in that perfect penmanship that she'd always had. The relationship of a lifetime burned away with nothing more than a few strokes of a pen. To say that I hadn't been happy about it would be an understatement. In that exact moment, I think I hated her, and anger had flowed out of me. I had yelled and ranted and raved, not really knowing what I was saying, but letting her have every ounce of venom that I had festering inside of me. She had simply stood there and took it. The calm expression on her face made my rage grow even stronger. I don't know how long it was that I screamed at her. It was quite a while though, and by the time I was done, I was soaked in sweat. Courtney had weathered the storm of my accusations and insults, and she had done so without a single word. Once I had finished, she had led me into the kitchen, sat me down at the table, and waited for me to sign the papers. She was so matter-of-fact about it. It was like everything that we had been through up to that point simply didn't matter. All that she wanted was to be done with the marriage, done with me, and done with the conversation. Yeah, well, she had gotten what she wanted. We were done. All that was left of our relationship were the various items and mementos in the box I was now carrying. The apartment building wasn't large, just 2 stories tall from the top floor to the ground level. I was about halfway down the stairs when the lights overhead began to flicker. What the building lacked in height, it made up for in age. It was easily the oldest structure on the block, and there were always issues with the power. Most of those issues weren't serious, but they were still annoying. I glanced up at the lights before continuing on. I had only gone down a few more steps when the bulbs over the stairs behind me went out completely. Stopping, I turned slightly and looked back up toward the 2nd floor. There were no windows in the stairwell, and without the lights, everything more than a couple of yards away from me was covered in total darkness. My anger diminished slightly as a small bit of discomfort replaced it. I know it's irrational and maybe even borderline stupid, but I've always been afraid of the dark. Not to the point where I can't sleep without a light on. I'm not a child. It's enough that I won't go into dark basements or walk down unlit alleys at night, though. Turning back around, I started descending the stairs again. My pace was just a bit quicker than it had been previously. While I knew logically there was no one in the stairwell with me, the lizard part of my brain didn't care what my fancy logic said and just wanted to be back out in the daylight. I felt a wave of relief go through me as I reached the ground floor. I hurried over to the door and tried to pull it open. It didn't budge. Frowning, I tried again with the same result. I didn't understand what was happening. The knob was turning, but the door wasn't opening. After a few more futile attempts, I knelt down and examined the door closely. The knob itself didn't have a lock, and there was enough light coming through the crack between the door and frame for me to see that there wasn't a deadbolt. There was no reason, at least not one that I could find, for it not to be cooperating. It had to be broken or jammed or something. Not sure what else to do, I knocked on it a few